Good evening, everyone. We're just about to start a Yin Yoga practice at B1 Yoga on Facebook Live. If you'd like to, you won't be hearing music during the class, but if you would like to listen to some music, then head on over to Spotify and follow May Hinchin on Spotify, and then find my playlist that's titled May Yin, and that will help you during the class. If you're not on Spotify and you can't find me or my playlist, just play some relaxing yoga music in your house. We have just a couple of minutes before we get started. I just want to make sure that everybody is able to hear me just fine. Everybody can see me. We have a modified candlelit class this evening. And if you have any questions, please type them in and I will do my best to answer them. Val, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Thank you. All right, I hear the church bells outside, so that's telling me it's 7 o'clock and we're going to get started. As we get started tonight, I'd like to introduce my friend Mary. Mary could give a wave. So we have a demonstrator this evening, and I wanted to have somebody in the studio so I could make sure that my timing was okay with everything. So you'll be seeing Mary a little bit this evening and hearing me and seeing me as well. So we're going to get started this evening in crocodile. So crocodile is laying on your belly with your forearms stacked on top of one another and then your forehead resting on your stacked forearms. Now in crocodile pose, we'd like to make sure that the upper chest is lifted a little off your mat. So walk your arms back just a couple of inches so your upper chest is lifted off the mat. One of the reasons that we have the upper chest lifted is that when our upper chest is not constricted by the mat, we really notice the breath in our belly. So crocodile pose is a very, very grounding pose. I thought we all needed that this week. So when you start here in crocodile, then just paying attention to the rise and fall of your belly. I see a couple of you are just joining us. So make your way into crocodile pose. Find some soft music and follow along. When you're in your crocodile pose, take this time to notice that when you breathe in, I lost an AirPod. When you breathe in, that you feel your belly press against your mat. And when you breathe out, you feel your belly release away from your mat or the floor if you don't have a mat. Yeah. Now, take slow, steady, deep, and smooth breaths. Paying attention right now to the sound of my voice and the feeling of your belly pressing against your mat. Crocodile pose helps us to breathe diaphragmatically. This diaphragmatic breathing sets your relaxed state of mind into go. It helps you to trigger your body to slow down, to relax, and to get out of that fight or flight mode that many of us find ourselves in. Bringing your body into the parasympathetic nervous system in which you are quiet and still. As you lay here in your crocodile pose, I want to offer for you a quote. And this quote, I think, is very important to us in this time, this week that has been challenging for all of us. And I know that the circumstances of our lives right now has made us slow down. But the slowing down isn't necessarily restful or relaxing. And so we have to take this opportunity to very intentionally let ourselves relax and let ourselves surrender to what is. And so I offer you this. I am learning to live between effort and surrender. I do my best and hope for what I want, but I do not resist the direction of the wind. Through surrender, I move from outer turmoil to inner peace. By letting go of expectations and outcomes, I transform a painful experience into a positive, fruitful endeavor. When fear gets the best of me, I surrender to love. When I release my resistance to love's presence, I am able to receive what I need, what's trying to come into my life for my higher good. As you practice your Yin Yoga with me this evening, I hope you're able, just a little bit, to surrender, to not fight the wind, to allow outer turmoil to turn in to inner peace. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and sigh it out through your mouth. Good. One more time, breathe in through your nose and let it out through your mouth. Each of these breaths helping you to let go, to surrender just a little bit more. Throughout our practice this evening, keeping a steady, constant, deep, and smooth breath. At any time when you come into any of the poses, if you are unable to keep a steady and easy breath, then that's maybe your body's signal to you that you've gone a little too far. We are hoping tonight through our practice to relax, to surrender, to let go, in order for us to feel grounded, in order for us to be at peace. If you are in a place, in any pose, where you cannot draw a slow, steady, and deep breath, then you're not going to be able to release. Back off. Find an alternate for you. This is your yoga. The first pose that we're going to be doing tonight is called Broken Wing. For Broken Wing, you're going to extend your right arm perpendicular to your body. If I can keep my earpods in, this is going to be a lot better. Extend your right arm perpendicular to your body. So if you take a peek, your right index finger will be in line with your right shoulder. Then bring your left hand underneath your left shoulder and bend your left knee. When you're ready, press down into that left hand to roll yourself onto your right side body. Now that left foot can come in front of the right knee. It can come behind the right knee. Or maybe you extend your left leg long and just let it rest on top of your right. Now, Broken Wing is a big stretch for the right shoulder, the front part of the shoulder, the right upper chest. That left hand is maybe going to stay on your mat, resting and holding you steady. or if it feels safe for your right shoulder, you're going to inhale the left arm up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, let it fall gently behind your back. If you try to bring that left arm back behind you and that feels like too much, then bring it back around. Good. Your right temple can rest here on the mat, or if you have a blanket or a small pillow, even a yoga block, you could rest your right temple on that to give some more support for your neck. We want to feel here a very broad expansion in the front of the right shoulder. Being very mindful here of the difference between a stretch that you feel in the shoulder and pain. If you feel pain, you're going to have a hard time drawing that breath. Your body is going to start to speak more loudly to you. Your body will say, I need to get out, right? If you're hearing that from that inner voice, from that instinct within you, then back off. We want to maintain a nice stretch without causing our bodies pain. You're doing so well. Much of the stress that we hold is in our shoulders and our hips. This evening in our practice, we're going to be concentrating on these areas. The stress that we've been feeling lately, settling in our shoulders and our hips, areas in our body where we have a lot of connective tissue. This connective tissue holds that fear, the frustration. Our Yin practice will help us to release some of that this evening. Let's take one more breath here. If your left arm is behind your back, on your inhale, gently reach it up towards the ceiling. And then with your exhale, release your left hand to your mat. And then use the stability of that left hand to gently and carefully roll onto your belly. Bringing your arms down along your sides with your palms up and your left cheek to the mat. And now in this moment, be still. Notice the sensation that you're feeling in that right shoulder. The sensation might feel like a warm, tingly sensation. It might feel like a cool, tingly, or breezy sensation. Sometimes I think it feels breezy. It may be hard for you to put into words exactly what you're feeling in that right shoulder. But that, my friends, is the sensation of that tension that you released in your right shoulder. Good. We allow ourselves and our body just a moment to rebound here, to come back from that big stretch that we were just in. Good. Bring your chin to center, your hands underneath your shoulders, and press yourself up to a tabletop. Now here we're going to find a little bit of movement for that right shoulder. So maybe you're going to do some big arm circles. Maybe you're just going to do some little arm circles. The movement initiating more at your elbow than your shoulder. Maybe it will feel good for you to reach your arm up and then gently pass it underneath your body and back up and down. Yeah. Maybe it would feel better for you to do some cows and cats, to find a little bit of movement for that right shoulder, to bring the blood flow back in, and for you to move that released energy throughout your body. Our Yin class moves pretty slowly, so take whatever time you need every time when we come out of a pose for this movement. When you're ready, before we move into our broken wing on the left, We're going to do a different shoulder stretch. So here we're going to do melting heart. So melting heart looks a little bit like a combination between a child's pose and downward facing dog. No, that's not right. Child's pose and tabletop. That's it. It had to come to me. Child's pose and tabletop. So for melting heart, you're going to walk your hands forward on your mat, walking them so far forward that you bring your forehead to rest on your mat. Once again, if it's too much for your shoulders, a pillow or a block underneath your forehead, or maybe even under your upper chest, would be a nice modification for you. In melting heart, we would like to keep the hips directly over the knees and walk the hands towards the top of our mats. Now, this is a big stretch for the shoulders. Once again, we hold a lot of tension in our shoulders because there's a lot of connective tissue there. So if this feels like too much for your shoulders, bend your elbows a little bit more and allow your forearms to rest more on the mat, absorbing some of the weight so that your shoulders don't take as much. If you're appreciating this stretch for your shoulders, walk your hands forward even more, and you'll feel that a little bit deeper. Now, for some people, it feels really good to have a compression to the cervical spine to the neck. So, one more option here is to tip your head up so that your chin rests on your mat. That's a lot of compression in your neck, in the back part of your neck. So some people, it feels really good in melting heart to tip the chin up, and some people it doesn't feel good at all. So if you try that and you bring your chin to the mat looking forward and that doesn't feel safe for your neck, bring your forehead back to the mat. In this pose, because its name is melting heart, imagine with each exhale that your heart sinks a little closer to your mat. Feel here how your knees, your forehead, and your forearms are supported by the mat. Melting heart is also a little bit of a back bend. You can see if you have your head up, Mary's back, just a little bit of a back bend. This is creating a wonderful opening in the front part of your spine. So we spend a great deal of our time hunched forward. Our spine is rounded forward most of our day. When we practice melting heart and we bring that little gentle back bend into our body, then we open up that front part of the spinal column, releasing energy there. In the back part of our spinal column, we're creating just a little bit of compression. This compression serves us well. When we release from the pose, blood, water, cerebrospinal fluid will flow back into that back part of your spine, the part that we've been sort of squeezing out with this mini back bend in melting heart. You might notice a little bit, some opening in your shoulders. Tell your shoulders right now that it's okay for them to release. That it's okay for the weight that you've been carrying in your shoulders to be set aside. Yeah, you're doing great. Continue your deep, smooth, diaphragmatic breathing. Allow your body to release. It is time to exit from melting heart. So very slowly, as if in slow motion, walk your hands back up underneath your shoulders to slowly, carefully press yourself up into a tabletop. And then sink your hips back to your heels for embryo pose. In embryo pose, two wonderful things are happening. First of all, with your palms back by your feet, palms up, you're allowing your shoulders to completely now relax. Our melting heart was a big stretch in the shoulders, and now the shoulders can just relax and soften. With each breath here, imagine your shoulders sinking a little bit closer to your mat. Also in this embryo pose, imagine your spine. We had that very gentle back bend, that compression to the posterior part of your spine, and now we're gently opening it up by rounding forward over the knees. This very subtle movement is bringing that blood flow, all of the fluid back into your spinal column. When you're ready, gently press yourself up to your tabletop. In here, in your tabletop, for some gentle movement to move that energy around and to help pump that fluid back into your spinal column, move through some cows and cats. Maybe you add on to your cows and cats. Maybe you add a C shape. Maybe you exhale from a cat back into a child's pose. Here, close your eyes and let your body guide you in movement. When we are able to surrender our busy mind to our instinct, our body knows what to do, and our body takes over in a way that serves us. As always, taking as much time as you need in this gentle movement. And when you're ready, slowly once again lower all the way onto your belly. Preparing for our broken wing for the left shoulder. So this time, the left arm extends straight out from your body. If you look, your left index finger is in line with your left shoulder, so that your left arm is at a 90-degree angle to your torso. Bring your right hand underneath your right shoulder and bend your right knee. Now when you're ready, press into your right hand to roll yourself onto your left side body. And before you settle in, take a few seconds here for some exploration. That right foot might go in front or behind or on top of the left leg. And know when you explore on this side that it's likely going to feel different than the right side. So our bodies are asymmetrical. What felt good, what felt like release on one side may not feel the same on the other. So your pose doesn't have to look the same. It has to feel-ish the same. That right hand might lift up and fall behind your back, or it might stay in front of your chest, giving some support to your upper body and taking a little bit of pressure off that left shoulder. Notice and just observe the sensation in your left shoulder, the left upper chest. This stretch is for sure intense because of how we sit forward, because of the structure of our bodies, because of the connective tissue we have in our shoulders. We definitely feel broken wing stretch. But I want you to check in and for you to gauge within your body if this stretch feels like too much, that it feels like your body is starting to panic and to demand that you get out, or if this stretch can feel manageable to you. You're definitely aware of it, it's definitely present. But if you can't sit with it and sit in it, then it's too much. Make an adjustment, gently come out. Allow your body to be your guide. In the midst of the turmoil of our days, that outer turmoil, the more that we tune in, the more that we build that mind-body connection, the more we're able to release and surrender. Let's take one more breath here. Now, if your right hand is behind your back, gently inhale, reach it up towards the ceiling. And with your exhale, release your right hand to the mat. And using the stability of your right hand, ever so gently, with the greatest care to your left shoulder, roll back onto your belly. Both hands come along your sides, palms up, this time right cheek to the mat. In this moment of rebound, notice the relaxation in your shoulders. Perhaps after we did the right side, it felt looser, and now the left side matches. Maybe you notice a softening. Maybe you notice the release from your practice. You did a great job. Bring your chin back to center. Your hands underneath your shoulders. And press yourself up to your tabletop. Here in your tabletop, finding that movement for your left shoulder. So maybe some arm circles. If you're doing arm circles, be sure to move them forward and then backwards. Maybe you're sweeping that left arm up towards the ceiling and then sweeping it underneath your body once or twice, just to allow this gentle movement to bring the blood flow back into the joint, into the shoulder, and for you to move that energy, all of that energy that was stored up in your shoulder, for you to move it throughout your body, redistributing, equalizing the energy distribution throughout you. And when that feels complete, we're going to swing our legs around and come to a seated position. Bring your legs out in front of you, preparing here for caterpillar pose. So caterpillar is a seated forward fold. To start with caterpillar pose, we're going to walk our hips back, one hip at a time. This will bring just a little natural forward tilt to your pelvis, which helps you to be more safely in this forward fold. Now bring your hands down alongside of your hips. With your inhale, lengthen your spine. And then on your exhale, slowly walk your hands towards your feet. And when I get to this place where I start to feel that resistance in my lower back and in my hamstrings, I like to walk my hips back one more time. It's bringing a little bit more tilt to my pelvis. And then find a place to hold on to. Now for you, that place might be behind your knees. It could be your ankles. It might be your feet. But bear in mind, when we practice caterpillar pose, our goal is not so much to touch our feet. Here, we are hoping to stretch our hamstrings and our low back. So, move yourself to the place where you feel that stretch in your hamstrings and low back. Notice sensation in your low back. If your low back is kind of cranky, if it's feeling a little sensitive or just not right, bend your knees and maybe bend them a lot, letting your belly rest against your thighs. Bending your knees will take some of the pressure off of the SI joint, the joint right at the base of your spine, the place where most of us feel a little tension in our low back. So when you bend your knees, you'll take the pressure off of the SI joint, which will allow you to be in your caterpillar. Allow you to surrender. Good. Tell the muscles in your low back and tell the muscles in your hamstrings that it's okay for them to let go. That it's okay to release. Tell the muscles in your low back it's okay to relax. With every inhale, notice a lengthening, and every exhale, a deepening. We've been in the pose long enough now that your muscles have gotten that trigger from your brain that they don't need to move, that they don't need to stay on call, and so they can release. When that happens, sometimes we find ourselves approaching a little bit more depth. That depth might seem so subtle. It might seem like a fraction of an inch. Yeah, but it's there. As your body releases, as you find space, notice if you're holding tension in your shoulders. I sure hope not, because we already stretched shoulders. But if you're holding some tension in your shoulders, let them relax. Let that spot between your eyebrows relax. Right now we are creating tension, the stretch in your hamstrings and low back. Let your body do the work. If you're holding on to the backs of your knees or your calves or your ankles or your feet, gently release your grip, bringing your hands to both sides of your legs. And then slowly, oh so slowly, walk your hands back up towards your hips. I like to get to that point just about the top of my calves where I pause for just a breath to let my low back adjust, and then I finish. Bring your hands back behind you, palms down on your mat. Fingers can face forward or back, whichever's most comfortable for your shoulders. Now let the weight of your upper body rest into your palms. This helps to take all the pressure out of the low back. Maybe you'd like to do just a little mini back bend by lifting your heart up. It might feel better for you to keep your spine straight. Letting your palms and your arms absorb all of the weight so your low back releases. Now here, options for movement. You may want to roll on your back and rock side to side. It might feel good for you to bend your knees and windshield wiper your legs side to side. Sometimes after caterpillar, I like to bring my feet to the mat and then gently lift up, doing a reverse table, just slowly lifting and lowering. It might feel good for you to flip over to a tabletop and do some cows and cats. It might feel good for you to find your way into a downward facing dog and pedal out your legs. Yeah. Allowing your body, once again, to be your guide. Our bodies are so wise when we can surrender to their instinct. When that movement feels complete to you, we're going to make our way to a tabletop. So coming up or coming down, whether you are in downward facing dog or on your back. Now, I said at the beginning of class that our focus tonight was going to be on shoulders and hips. So let's get into those hips with sleeping swan pose. So for sleeping swan, we're going to start by moving that left knee about 4 or so inches back. And then we're going to bring our right knee up towards our right wrist and move the right foot over towards the left wrist and sink down. Now, we are stretching our right hip. You may notice that your right hip does not want to rest down on the mat. This is your opportunity to grab a pillow or a block or a bolster and bring it underneath that right hip for support. A blanket is also a really good idea. Mary's going to use a blanket there under her right hip. Before we move into our sleeping swan, take a peek over your left shoulder to make sure your left leg is straight back behind you. And then take a peek over your right shoulder towards your left leg. It will help to pull that right hip back so that your hips are square to the front of your mat. Now you're welcome to stay right here on your tall arms. It might feel good for you to walk your hands forward, bending your elbows to rest your forearms on your mat, or maybe even lowering all the way down so that your chest rests on that right thigh and your arms extend out in front of you. You might want to rest your forehead on a pillow, a block, or a blanket. Once again, to feel grounded, to feel your mat, the floor, Mother Earth supporting you. This sensation here in the right hip. Just like our shoulders, our hips have a lot of connective tissue. In order for us to move our legs forward and back, out and in a circle, the joint there at the hip is ball and socket. We all know this. The ball and socket, without connective tissue, without the ligaments that hold bone to bone and the tendons that hold muscle to bone, without the connective tissue, that ball and socket joint is fairly unstable. So our tendons and our ligaments work together to create the stability in our hip. This is important because we bear weight on our hips. It is believed that stress, anger, frustration, shame, fear, all of these negative emotions rest in our connective tissue. When we don't process our emotions, or when we just frankly have too many of them that we cannot possibly process, they tend to get stuck in our connective tissue. And like the shoulders, because the hips have so much connective tissue, a lot gets stuck there. Our Yin Yoga practice helps us through this steady tension that we create on that connective tissue to release. Our connective tissue is so different compared to our muscular tissue. Our muscular tissue has a lot more blood flow to it than our connective tissue does. So the connective tissue takes time. It takes stillness. It takes patience for it to relax and to release. Freeing up not just the physical sensation of tension, but that negative energy that we hold. Instead, here, of thinking about the discomfort, I even hesitate to use that word, but the tension, instead of thinking about how much longer you're going to be in this hip stretch, shift your thought process to one of gratitude, that your body responds to your practice. Shift your thought process to opportunity. That when you have the opportunity to release, to let go, to surrender, you turn that outer turmoil into inner peace. When you release that tension, you find yourself in the presence of love. You are doing great. On your next inhale, with great care to your right hip, gently press yourself up to your tall arms if you have hinged forward. Shift your weight just gently to the right, enough that you can straighten that right leg underneath you and make your way to your belly, keeping your movement gentle and slow. Bring your left cheek to the mat and your arms along your side. If it feels good, if it feels grounded for you to find crocodile once again, just how we began, certainly that's your option. Yeah. Pay attention here. Observe the sensation in your right hip. Does it feel the same? Does it feel slightly different than the sensation that you felt in your right shoulder after we did broken wing on the right? Here, developing your mind-body awareness for you to know instinctually that your body is letting go. Do a quick check-in between your right and left hip. Does your right hip here feel slightly softer? Maybe a little heavier? Maybe relaxed? Yeah, I thought so. If your left cheek is to the mat, bring your chin to center. Gently press yourself up to your tabletop or your downward facing dog And let's find some movement for that left hip. So you might make circles with your, right hip. You might make circles with your right leg. You might kick your right leg back behind you and just give it a good shake. For me, I like to draw my right knee in towards my chest and then extend it back out, just gently, slowly, a few times. Once again, this gentle movement at the end of our pose helps us to bring the blood flow back into the joint. It helps us to move that energy. The energy that we keep in our body is neither good nor bad. Energy is just energy. And when we don't resolve it, when it settles, we can release it and then spread it out through the body where it once again serves us. That's the benefit of this movement. So when you are ready, coming back to your hands and knees, we'll move into our sleeping swan on the left side. So we'll start by sending that right knee back about 3 to 4 inches. And then sliding the left knee up towards the left wrist and the ankle over towards the right wrist. Settling your pelvis down towards your mat. Think about those bony parts, the front part of your hips, and see if you can square them to the top of your mat. We'll begin here by looking over the right shoulder at the right leg to make sure it's straight behind us. And then looking over the left shoulder, feel how that pulls that left hip back just a little bit. Good. Now once again, our bodies are asymmetrical. So what worked on the right might be completely different than what works on the left. Here, tucking a blanket, a pillow, a bolster, a block underneath that left hip, if your left hip isn't resting on your mat. Now, if your left hip isn't resting on your mat and you're reluctant to use a prop, maybe rethink that. Because when our hip stays up, we keep a little tension in the glutes to hold ourselves steady. When we use a prop underneath our hip, then we can let the muscles relax because the prop does the work of supporting us. Yeah. So here, maybe at first you stay upright. Maybe you're ready to come forward onto your forearms or all the way down onto your belly. Your sleeping swan on the left may look completely different than it did on the right. Think less about how it looks and more about how it feels. If it feels like a stretch, a manageable stretch in your left hip, you're doing it right. Yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it. Finding the tension in the targeted area and then holding stillness and observance. Send your breath into that left hip. With your inhale, imagine that breath surrounding your left hip joint, filling it, positivity, with light, with love. And with your exhale, imagining that exhale taking the negative energy away, releasing, surrendering. Allow gravity to guide you. Allow gravity to assist with every exhale. Feel yourself sinking just a little bit more, even if it is a fraction of an inch. Just a little bit more into your sleeping swan. Feel tension, sure, that's the point. This prolonged, sustained tension helps to stimulate the connective tissue, helps to release. Relax your jaw. Relax your brow. Relax your shoulders. Let it all go. Beautiful job. Know that through your practice this evening, you have used your body, the weight, the pressure, the stress to your tissues that you can create with your body to find space, to release, to let go, and to surrender. In this time where we feel that we have such little control, you have been in charge. You have found the depth. You have found a perfect place for your body to be, to release. On your next inhale, very slowly, carefully, with the greatest care for that left hip, come up to your tall arms. Shift your weight to the left just enough that you can straighten that left leg underneath you and make your way onto your belly. Bringing your right cheek to the mat, or perhaps stacking your forehead on your forearms in crocodile once more. Now observe the sensation in your left hip. Does it feel somewhat similar to the sensation from your right? Is it more or is it less? If you felt more or less tension in your hip, your left hip compared to your right, that sensation when you come out might feel a little different. It might feel the same. You might have a hard time putting into words what it feels like. But you may notice that now both hips seem soft or feel relaxed, like they have let go. You are amazing. If your right cheek is to the mat, bring your chin to center. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Press yourself up either to your tabletop or your downward facing dog. And find some movement here in that left hip. So once again, maybe you're making circles with the hip. If you are, be sure to go both directions. Maybe you're pulling your left knee in towards your chest and then extending it back out behind you. Maybe you're just giving that left leg a good kick. Take as much time as you need. And when you are ready, release your knees to your mat if you're in your downward facing dog. From tabletop, spin your legs around and make your way onto your back. Prepare here for your final Shavasana, your resting meditation. If you need a blanket, socks, or cover up, something to place over your eyes, please take time to get what you need. And then release onto your back. For these moments in your Shavasana, your surrender. During our Shavasana this evening, because we may all be listening to different music or no music, I'm going to do a progressive relaxation to make yourself comfortable. Extending your arms and legs long. Let your legs relax so that your toes fall out to the sides. And let's bring your attention to your toes. Give them a little wiggle. Let them soften and relax. Move your attention to the soles of your feet and to your heels. Let your feet release, maybe even falling out to the sides just a little bit more. Yeah. Let your ankles relax. Let your calves let go. Feel your calves heavy, weighted against the mat, settling in. Relax your knees. Relax your quads, your hamstrings, so the front part of your thighs and the back part of your thighs. Large muscle group here. With your next exhale, consciously let those muscles go. Yeah, good. Relax your glutes, another big muscle group. Soften. Feel your glutes melting, releasing into your mat. Let your low belly relax and let go. Bring your attention to your mid-belly, your mid-back. Once again, letting gravity soften it, sinking it closer to your mat. Feel the backs of your ribs and your shoulder blades settling into your mat. Complete surrender. Relax your shoulders, your triceps along your mat, your elbows, your forearms. Feel your arms be heavy as they let go. Relax the palms of your hands and your fingers. Good. Relax your neck. Feel the back of your head soften release, melt into your mat. Relax your ears, your scalp. Relax your jaw, the muscles of your face, softening. Imagine a line drawn all the way down the midline of your body. With your next exhale, relax everything on the right side of that line. And now with your next exhale, relax everything on the left side of that line. Relax everything from your waist down. And relax everything from your waist up. Imagine the top, the part of your body that's facing up towards the ceiling, softening, releasing into your bottom. Imagine that bottom part of your body, all of the places that are connected to your mat, getting heavier, sinking into your mat. Relax your whole body. Relax your whole body. Relax your whole body. Invite some small movement into your fingers and your toes. Gently bringing yourself back to your space with these areas of your body furthest from your heart. Increase that movement to your wrists and your ankles, your neck as you let your head fall to the right and to the left. And when it feels right for you, draw your knees into your chest and roll over onto your left side body. Curling yourself up into your supported fetus pose. Realizing tonight that with your surrender, you left a lot of that tension on your mat. And I leave you with this. What if the universe is trying to get us to slow down, to stop producing, to stay home and let the earth breathe a little without all the extra pollution we cause daily? To take a step back and realize how we really impact the earth and one another. And we aren't as significant or in control as we think we are. A virus can come through and wipe us all out, but Earth will still be here. We are all connected. Just like we can spread a disease, we can also spread love, kindness, and positivity. Use this time for reflection of your contribution and the life you are living. slow down, and finally hear yourself again. The universe is always speaking to us if we are willing to listen. Gently make your way up to a tall, seated position, keeping your eyes closed with a gentle gaze. Taking your time to get there. On your inhale, reach your arms up overhead, bringing your hands together at the top. And with your exhale, release your hands to heart center. Lift your heart to meet your thumbs. Feel your heartbeat within you. Your heartbeat that is strong, that is perseverant, that serves you. This heartbeat, the center of your love, your acceptance, ultimately your surrender. May you live a life full of love. May you live a life abundant with peace. And may you live a life of ease, my friends. Thank you for showing up on your mat or your carpet this evening. Namaste. All right, everybody always says after yin class that they hate to drive home because it wakes them up because they're so relaxed and they just want to go to bed. Yeah, you can go to bed. Have a good night, everyone. Hope to see you in the studio soon.